Hello, everybody. Welcome into Perspectives. I hope you had a great Christmas and you were with family. Very, very important this time of year. Today, we're going to go back again into the archives. We're going to pull a name out that you know, and I know you know this guy because he's been around for so long. He got his start at a TV station up in Kansas, and he was working in the TV station part-time and going to law school. And all of a sudden, they had a tornado headed for Topeka. And this is what caught him. This happened back in the 60s. And the thing was on the ground, headed directly for Topeka. And he said, for God's sake, take cover. Network picked up on that and boosted him directly from the little station in Topeka, Kansas, right back up into New York, and he ended up working with Diane Sawyer on the morning news show for many years. He eventually retired, and now he's the announcer and scorekeeper on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR, and I'm talking about Bill Kurtis. Here now is that interview from, we go back to 2009 with Bill Kurtis. Welcome, Bill Kurtis.
Thank you, Sam.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
A little bit. Let's go back a lot with you, if that's comfortable.
Sure.
Originally born in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You were how old when you moved to Kansas?
About 6 months.
Really?
And I don't think we moved directly to Kansas. My dad was in the Marines. Mm-hmm. So I grew up on a Marine base until I was 13. Cherry Point on the East Coast, Del Toro on the West Coast. My dad was in Okinawa. He was an aviator. And eventually, when he retired, we moved to Kansas. He was from Hope, Kansas. My mother was from Wayside, Kansas. And so we moved to Independence. I was able to go to high school, KU for college, Washburn Law School, and Topeka for law school.
Your father, highly decorated, wasn't he?
Pretty good guy.
Yeah.
He saw a good action and had a wonderful career.
Did your mom work outside the home?
She didn't. She was a homemaker.
Probably had her hands full with
you. She did with me. I have a sister who's now a state senator there, so you can see we were both pretty high energy.
Yeah.
But you know what they do as military wives? They're moving all the time. Mm-hmm. So you may stay in a place 2 to 3 years, so either you're unpacking for 2 years or packing for the rest of the time.
Just get used to it.
Yeah.
According to the legend, the Bill Kurtis legend, you sort of made your bones because of a tornado. Could you relate that story for us?
Well, I think it was a big break. A long time before I would admit that. I started when I was 16 in high school at KIND, Independence, Kansas. So by the time I got through college and into law school, I had 10 years experience. Mm-hmm. But it came so easy, those of us who have deep voices, that I thought, well, I need substance. And so I went to law school. But I was studying for the bar and filled in for a friend who was news director in Topeka. There was only one television station in town, so everybody watched it. Mm-hmm. Did the 6 o'clock news. At 6:30, we got wind of a front that was coming from Manhattan, Kansas to Topeka, so let's stick around because smaller communities, smaller states, I'm speaking in comparison with Chicago and New York, take our weather very, very seriously.
Oh, yeah, and back then coverage or lack of it was the order.
That's right. So we sent out our spotters, and I had done weather for a while, but I stuck around, and at 7 o'clock, I went back on the air. I was 26 years old. We did it, without a jacket and on the spot right now. And in the middle of a bulletin, as I looked into the camera, I heard this radio just off actually from the newsroom, two-way radio, and it was from our cameraman, Ed Rutherford, and he said, we have a tornado on the ground, southwest edge of the city, approaching Burnett's Mound. Burnett's Mound was an Indian burial ground that the legend goes, would cause the tornado funnel to bounce up, dissipate, and save the town. Well, I gave the word, but I didn't really believe it because I thought because of that and other reasons it would kind of go away. So I waited for the second report. Well, it came within a matter of seconds, and it says just wiped out the Huntington apartment complex. I could not see it We didn't have all the cameras all over every place, but it was a half block wide, maybe a block wide. And there was no wispy little funnel. It was just a cloud that stovepiped right down to the streets.
Kind of the finger of God that they talk
Exactly.
about.
So I knew then that this was the real thing, and it was really bad. And if I could draw a line, and I did in my head, while I was headed for the Capitol, downtown, through the university, through hospitals and all that. And so I said, knowing that the next words that I would say would mean life and death to people, for God's sake, take cover. Trying to get them into the basement. It was the seminal moment, really, in my career at age 26. And I gave up a job practicing law, set up my tape, because of this searing responsibility that I saw in front of me, that broadcasting really could be this force for good, and so very important, rather than, evolving into entertainment and everything like that. So in 3 months, I was in Chicago.
I feel like you're channeling Ed Murrow here. To go back to that for just a moment, you stayed on the air continuously for 24 hours. Didn't
Yep, we simulcast with the radio station. And there were, most of the radio stations had been knocked off the air. There was no other TV in town. The telephone lines were down, so we were a little island. So we became this communication hub. I remember calling in National Guard, anybody with a chainsaw or with an emergency vehicle, we need help in Topeka, for a 60-mile radius. And then, so we were calling up, with commanders, National Guard units, emergency personnel. And then we started, within that 24-hour period, broadcasting names of people who would literally drive out to the station. We're okay. Smith family is okay. The Jones would like to communicate to Emporia. They're okay. Everybody's all right. Because immediately, telephone may be still in working order, but soon the lines will simply jam because of the volume, and you won't be able to get through for weeks. So Kansas, much like Oklahoma, everybody had a friend or relative in the Capitol. And they were literally, it was like the Blitzkrieg or the Luftwaffe coming over London, tuning in to the radio station and listening as far west as the border with Colorado. And it was such an experience for everybody, that moment, that people come up to me even today, and we're bonded forever.
Well, there must have been a great number of deaths and injuries out of that. I've just read light accounts that the damage was extensive.
It was the worst damage up to that date. We had 27 deaths. The warnings were good, though, and we had a 75 rating, which is unheard of in the history of broadcasting, because we were the only station in town, so you were communicating to everybody.
Pardon me for jumping in here, but you were fairly new to the business. Did you have any idea that you were doing exactly what Ed Murrow said that television should be used for, that you were actually communicating with and helping the very people who watch it? Did you know at that time?
No, I didn't. You just sort of naturally do it. It was a big test for me because I knew the gravity of the next words that I had to say. They would mean life and death. And I felt like sort of an hysteria building up. I could feel it, coming up. But how do you communicate? Do you cry? Do you cuss? Just something to break the taking it for granted attitude. So I said, for God's sake, take cover. And I'm sure the blood was draining from my head. My wife and 6-month-old were on the campus where the tornado was coming. My classmates were in the basement of the law school. They looked out across the golf course, and they saw this cloud coming. It was, of course, black, and they thought they saw birds high up, about 300 feet. And as it came closer and closer, they realized, oh, that's debris from houses that is churning up. And they could hardly see a rotation. But as it marched across, then of course everybody headed for the science building. And when they came out, My wife described it sort of as the end of the world because 8 sandstone buildings were in piles. And they came up and the cloud had passed on, so the sun is now shining, glistening off the raindrops. And so it's a beautiful day, and everything is destroyed.
You walked away from that facing, and you must have known the minute you walked off the set, you know what, I'm not sure if I want to spend my life in a courtroom or if I want to spend my life in a studio. And you had to make a decision.
Yeah, and I was struggling with that decision up to that point. I had the experience in broadcasting, even without the tornado, but I'd gone to law school for 3 years. So
Passed the bar, too.
You'll pass the bar. Maybe I said, don't I owe it to myself? And yet you stop and think, and it doesn't take long before you realize, God is showing me a very big sign. Mm-hmm. It's like, kid, get out of here.
It's like in the old comic, like, show me a sign.
Yeah, a sign.
I
need a bigger one?
So where did you go from there?
Straight to Chicago, which, as you know, for a broadcaster is an enormous leap.
Oh, yeah.
Over smaller markets, Kansas City, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and began a 30-year career with CBS and did everything from anchor to reporting on the street locally, then for CBS News, then the network anchor for CBS Morning News, and loved every minute of it.
We are in a major, we are all involved in a major change. Once the internet was invented, then everybody starts to jump on it, and we've got cell phones, and we've got satellites, and the world is spinning, and it's all happening so fast. And yet, if you stand back from the den just a bit and listen quietly, in spite of all the technological advances, you still hear the same moans and cries and screams from the people. I don't understand. How do I survive? Where do we bring it together?
For some people, it won't come together. You have to re-educate yourself. But look at the changes happening in the food industry. The whole thing is turning upside down. We want healthier food. We're over-processed, over-sugared, over-salted, and it's killing us. Because we've taken the nutrition out and we put chemicals in. People know it. It's just like tobacco. The people change the tobacco industry, and they will change the food industry. We live in an information age, and yet the media is sort of disemboweling itself. Almost every major newspaper in the country is in bankruptcy. Now, they can either shrink down to a size where they're tabloids handing it out on the street, or move it to the internet.
But you practice what you preach in terms of facing the food problem. I mean, it's your ranch. Your cattle obviously are not filled full of chemicals.
No, they're grass-fed and grass-finished. It came really as a result of the journalism. I discovered the problem. It's feedlot and corn feeding. And then I discovered the answer. And the answer is to put them back in the pasture and never take them out. That natural animal is a wonderful cycle. Sun causes the grass to grow that we can't eat. The cow eats the grass that we can eat, turns it into a protein, very nutritious, and then deposits fertilizer for next year's crop. So it's a wonderful circle. It's what we're all going after. We interrupted that circle after World War II, when suddenly we had all the corn in the world, literally. And to win the war, but also because the Depression-era subsidies were continuing, because we invented hybrid strains to fight climate and pests, and because the war came back with liquid nitrogen fertilizer and increased the yield from 20 to 200 bushels an acre. So that led to finding a market for it, which proved to be cattle, which proved to fatten quickly on corn, and with kind of a good marbling. And then we needed a market for the cattle and the beef, and along comes fast food. And now we went from 36 million head of cattle after World War II. We have 100 million now. And we're looking for places to Burger King and Wendy's and McDonald's.
How to get it out there.
Yeah, and we get it out there. The problem is it doesn't have the nutrition of a good, healthy We fill it full of chemicals to make them grow faster. We have to administer antibiotics to keep them healthy in a feedlot long enough to kill and eat. And now we're paying the price. In Wisconsin, one community came up and they had 90 wells that were contaminated simply from a concentrated animal feedlot operation seeping into the water table. Our fertilizer and nitrates run off from the fertilizers into the Mississippi River. By the time they get to the Gulf, we have what's called a dead zone, the size of Connecticut down there, where the algae blooms take all the oxygen out of the water and the fish can't live. Climate change is going to exaggerate this, but these are problems that we really have to wake up. They're much worse than Afghanistan.
And much worse than people realize. I read just the other day that we've got 9 billion, that's with a B, people who go to bed hungry every night. And this is worldwide, and we've got people, even higher numbers, that don't have clean water to drink.
I just saw a clip of Will Rogers. Here he is in the Depression and making a speech over at the museum saying, we have people hungry in this country. We have more than any other country of the world in the history of civilization, and they're going to bed hungry. So,
pretty spooky.
Yeah, it's spooky.
You, one of the things I picked up from watching you work, if you will, because I have that luxury, I can sit back and go, okay, Bill, I know what you're up to. You give me the impression in every single episode of every show you do that you've read everything you can get your hands on about it, that you're working hand in hand very tightly with a very good producer or set of producers, so by the time that camera rolls, you know as much about whatever case you're dealing with as the courts knew.
Well, you're being very generous.
No, it's the truth.
Well,
now, you do a very, very good job of that.
I do have, the credit is due, good producers, and I've trained them. So I hope they're good. And I also try to familiarize myself, but this goes, something that students will pick up on. I believe that being a professional means that when you come to a job, you concentrate on that job. If my job is to read a teleprompter on a commercial or the news, I'm going to focus on those words. And here's another tip for the kids. How do you look like you know what you're talking about? One way is to pass it through your brain, not just sit and read words. Think about it. Image what you are saying. And if you visualize those remarks, those phrases, by the time it comes out that mouth, your facial features will follow and look as though you understand it, because you're interested.
It seems to me like you embrace the qualities that we need to see more of. For example, each and every word you give true value to, beginning, ending, and middle. And when the thought comes out, there is a cohesive, concise, precise sentence, structured as it should be. And I hold to the old axiom, I'm sure you know what I talk about, in the old radio days when guys would be on a microphone, it wasn't enough to talk to the people. They had to create a picture that would come out of that speaker and embed itself in someone's mind. Today, we have too many reporters that go, I've been standing in front of a fire truck here. I mean, it's pretty obvious what there are. You don't need to tell me. I sometimes think that the gadgetry has overrun the reporting, and that troubles me.
Well, you don't have any time to report, for one thing. Let's say that the camera and the crew get a picture up on the satellite before you even arrive. They want to report now before you even have time to ask anybody or interview.
Yeah.
So, and if it were just locally, with the fire, would be one thing. It's international. So they've shut down the bureaus for our networks all around the world because they're costly. And then they will send the firemen reporters in, and you'll land and say, well, can you give me a read on what's happening? What's happening? Much less churning up any new content.
Does it bother you that we, in all of the changes, the electronic changes we're seeing with the internet and with the bloggers and with newspapers going under daily and television stations changing hands right and left, and people from other countries who can come in and buy a TV network and own newspapers and change the slant where we all of a sudden have two distinct sides fighting one another, and we have a congressional body that's become so partisan that people just wash their hands of them. I mean, as a journalist, what do you see coming out of this?
Well, I hate to see that, because I was trained, I worked for Walter Cronkite, and I sort of adopted my career, or adapted it to his model. He was not an analyst. He was not an opinion maker. He was the old school reporter that tells it right down the middle. Why? He said, because somebody has to. Trained to look at both sides and present them, but let you then draw your own conclusions. Not balancing just for balance sake. That's one extreme balanced against another extreme. There are two people screaming at each other. Somewhere in there in the middle is understanding and advancing the story. When they just put two people up and walk away, that does us no good. And we have more time and more information than ever before. Think of it.
And we're wasting it.
And we're just frittering it away.
We got about 3 minutes. If you could talk to any young student out there, I mean, let's go as early as freshmen in high school, who might be considering a career in journalism, either electronic or print, how would you advise them? What would you say they need to do more than anything else?
Well, first of all, we don't know what it's going to look like even in a year or two. Will it be television, as we now know it, broadcast? Will it be cable? Will it be DTV? Or will it be all on the internet? Probably all on the internet. And so you still need to do the same thing. You need to get your fundamentals in line. Learn how to write. You learn how to write by writing. Truman Capote used to sit in the train station and describe the avuncular, gray-haired, handsome man who came down and put it into words. If you want to be on camera, you got to talk and be on camera. And maybe it's reading into the mirror. Maybe it's reading out loud the newspaper. The voice is a muscle, your vocal cords. You need to exercise those muscles just like your biceps. So practice, and then take every opportunity to make a speech, to appear before the public, to begin a play. That's it. If you really want to do it, if your fire is there, then you'll be well prepared for what the media will require, no matter what form it takes.
And you'll establish a connection with ethics that just can't be matched.
And you know, your ethic, it's a very, very good point. Make your own standards, study them. It's great that you can go to a Walter Cronkite and model after him, but you've got to pick up those standards and make them your own, because there will be few out there that will be following them. And just be true to yourself.
We got less than 2 minutes, and I got to ask you a really personal question here. Your parents have passed. You think they'd be proud of Bill Kurtis today?
Oh, I do. They were proud of me then. Although my mother said, when they were alive, my mother once said, you know, if you could just stop doing so much, all these things, and concentrate on one thing, maybe you could be successful.
Did she live
Thanks,
long enough
Mom.
to see?
Not today, but I remember I'd call back, and I just did a report on the Manson case. I covered that for 10 months. And I said, well, Mom, how was it? And she said, well, you know, it was interesting.
Bless her heart.
She probably didn't even see it. But they were so wonderful, because you knew every time you called, they were going to love you, support you, maybe chew you out here and there to correct you, but they were the lifeline. And I figured as long as they were there, I could be kind of like the astronaut on the umbilical cord floating around anywhere in space and still feel secure.
Thank you, Bill Kurtis.
Thank you, Sam.
It's been a pleasure talking with you.
And that's our interview with Bill Kurtis. Thank you for being a part of it. We'll see you back here next time.